So if you've been following my channel for any amount of time, you probably know that I love SOPs, standard operating procedures. I believe that it's the only way for a business, a construction business, to truly grow and to truly scale, because you really can't scale if your people don't know what to do or if it's all stuck in your head. At the basic level, it's just as simple as getting what's in your head written into a document or somewhere, or structure software, which we do at J-Link Construction. Just go to structure.com to start your free trial and check it out. But you can literally import all of your SOPs right into there versus keeping them in random Google Docs and stuff like that. And then what about when you need to do a checklist or something like that and people start checking it off? Then it's like, oh, now it's checked off. We have to uncheck it. But in Structure, you can like submit your checklist. Anyway, there's a whole thing. But the question comes down to, how do we actually create SOPs? Now, I'm on my couch and I'm not sitting by my computer right now, but you're going to get the idea of the concepts behind how to create an SOP. And then you can go into your Structure account, or if you really want to just write them all in Google Docs or Word documents, or I don't know where else you're going to put them, Apple Notes. I mean, just put them in Structure software. It's just so much easier because you can organize them per role in your company and then just invite your team to the software within your settings, your team settings. And then they can view their role and fill everything out and see the flow charts and take quizzes that you build. And by the way, there's all kinds of SOP templates within Structure that you could check out. And of course, there's also a full CRM, project management, task management, the whole community. There's so much within Structure, everything a construction business needs. So check it out, structure.com, and just start your free trial. You got nothing to lose. So every day, our brain makes thousands, tens of thousands of decisions. We get into decision fatigue, and we have to use intuition to know next steps about a process, especially if it's somewhat of a repeatable process, like starting a new project, right? How do we do it? Well, every time your team opens up a new project, for example, or pulls a new permit, or contacts a new lead, or does anything across your company, creates a new estimate, creates a new schedule, fills out a daily log, gives a subcontractor a subcontract, logs an expense into the budget as logging a receipt into the budget. There's so many things across your company that need standard operating procedures, so it's done the same way, but also so you reduce decision fatigue in your employees, your staff's brains. This isn't some fault of your employees. This is something that happens to all humans. And even if I was working for myself, even if I was doing every role in my company, I would still love to have an SOP just to make sure I'm not forgetting something, but also so I don't have to think so hard every time I go to do that task. So instead of having to apply your intuition and solve all these problems over and over, just let the SOP do all the work, man. Let the SOP remove all of the guesswork. By the way, if you're liking this video so far, leave a little thumbs up down below. I would really appreciate it. So what exactly is an SOP? Well, it's pretty much a detailed set of instructions that lay out how to do something. So I like to think of it kind of like a recipe, right? It's not just laying out the steps, it's laying out how to actually do those steps. Measure a third cup of flour or whatever and dump it into the bowl. You know, it's like, okay, take the thing, measure a third cup, take the measuring thing, dump it into the bowl. Great. Step number 3 is done. So it lays out how to do the steps so anyone could pick up that recipe and bake the cake. And with clear SOPs that your whole team is required to follow, unless they have some feedback or input, they can always be changed, but you want to make sure the whole team is doing everything the same way. If they all poured the concrete, did the framing, or ran the HVAC a different way, it's going to be a little bit like chaos, and there's going to not be as much efficiency on the job site. The same goes with the internal operations of your business. You want everything to really be streamlined and flow and reduce friction and produce efficiency. Because if one person does something one way and another person does something another way, you're asking for mistakes. And a huge point, because people are people, bro. People are humans. And once you have a clear SOP, and listen to this, you're not relying on that specific person to be the back of your business. People could come and go because you have an SOP. If that person did just leave all of a sudden or got sick, or who knows, like maybe there's a maternity leave, someone else could fill the position review the SOP with some training, 5% versus 95% without the SOP as far as your energy levels going into like training and managing. They can pick up where they left off. You smell what I'm stepping in? So the SOP makes sure that it's not just your business relying on that person's expertise, but it's actually relying on the actual SOP and your expertise, because you're the one who put it together more than likely, which makes your business even more valuable. This, my friend, is what makes a valuable business. When you have processes and systems. People, when they buy businesses, they look at, first of all, if you have a leadership team, do you have a recurring revenue, stuff like that, but do you have systems in place? Systems in place is a really, really huge deal when it comes to the value of your construction business. And you can quickly spot mistakes when everything's happening the same way. It's like, oh, well, this happened here, wrong. Hey, Kevin, why didn't you follow the SOP that we have in place? Oh, well, I just thought it'd be better to, okay. Well, I mean, we're open to suggestions, but this clearly made, a mistake in this project or whatever the situation. Let's talk about how we can either make the SOP better if we really want to have that conversation together, which is, you should be open to that. If an employee has an idea of how to make the SOP better, listen to him, because there's going to be more buy-in. And better yet, if you can build the SOPs with your staff, they're going to love you even more, not just like 10 commandments coming down from on high. Also, you want them to follow the SOPs, and there shouldn't be wiggle room. That should be a bad thing for that situation. It's not acceptable, is what I'm saying. And also, SOPs set you up for scalability and growth. You could expand to new markets. You can open up a new office. Just take all those SOPs, boom, plop it in. Maybe there's a couple different permitting documents you need to swap for the different county or whatever, or the different state. You could scale because you just go, it's like a cookie cutter, which means you make more money, you grow, you expand, everything's repeatable, it's streamlined, less stress, more time with your family, and more golf. And you really make sure that everyone's operating at the highest level because everyone's following the same recipe, bro. Everyone's eating the same cake. So let's talk about how to actually create an SOP. Here's some examples. So you want to start with the why. Why is this SOP here? What is the purpose of this SOP? For example, customer onboarding process. The purpose is to successfully onboard the client and keep them happy, and then make them informed, get them informed on the software that you use and how invoices happen and blah, 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 all the different things that you need in your customer onboarding process. But that is the core reason, the purpose, the why behind this exact SOP. And then there's roles and responsibilities, like who is responsible for this? Is this the estimator? Is this the office manager? Is this the sales guy? Is this the project manager? Is this the superintendent? Is this the carpenter? Is this the foreman? Who's responsible for this SOP and the outcome of this SOP? And then there's the action steps of the SOP. And this is really the heart of it. This is where the juice is made, man. This is where it's all squeezed, laying out exactly how to do the actual thing, and with enough detail, not over detail. You want to keep them relatively simple, but don't just be like, simple thing without the detail that makes up that simple thing to make sure that everyone knows exactly what to do. But the goal here really is to make it as straightforward as possible. So even if you make that new hire, like I said before, they're going to know exactly what to do. And the SOP can include quality checks too. And there's got to be some accountability, like for example, if you have a project management, or maybe it's a superintendent SOP for inspections or whatever, and maybe a little quality check would be like, before we close up these walls, let's make sure we get the electrical inspected and the plumbing and the walls inspected and stuff like that. The little quality checks to make sure everything's running smoothly. And a big point is to make sure the SOP is easy to read. An SOP really, depending on the process, could be as simple as a flowchart, which you could build within structure, like a box for step 1 and a box for step 2 with an arrow going to each step. And maybe there's like a if yes or no, little split in the branch, and then there's like a yes or no process. So if the client declines the contract or if the client accepts the contract, what happens? Maybe if they decline it, it ends the process, or maybe you have some sort of little follow-up thing or whatever. But if they click yes and it's like, boom, move it on to project management, so convert it to a project in Structure software. So it could be as simple as a flowchart, but also if it's written, you want to make sure I like to really format these things. You can do all this with Structure too, but make sure it's numbered lists or bullet lists so it all flows and makes sense and is easy to read. Because the last thing you want is like all this crazy text, because your employees are just going to click off of it, bro. So it's nice to have as many visuals as possible, as well as the bulleted lists, the numbered lists, clear headings that are bolded, and the body of the SOP is a different text, maybe not so bold. So that's kind of what I like to do to keep it just very clear. And a huge point, the biggest point probably that I'll make in this whole video, if you've made it this far, was an SOP needs to be easy to find. And so you could put them all in Google Docs and have them all categorized in Google folders if that's what you want to do, but make sure no one overwrites all of your SOPs and stuff like that when they start editing all your stuff by accident. That's why I built Structure software, so you could organize everything in the internal operations per role and then have everything for each process as, a page within Structure that details it out. And so the last point here is to make sure that you allow customizability for your staff, because the last thing you want is 10 commandments coming down from on high. You better follow it or you're fired, and they don't even read it and they get fired, or they do read it, but really it could be better and they know it could be better because they've been estimating for 40 years and you built this estimating SOP or whatever, and you really want to get their feedback. SOPs are meant to be a living document. That's why in Structure, if you're an admin, you can just click the edit button and you can edit the SOPs and click save, and then boom, it's up to date. And everyone has the updated, because it's all cloud-based, everyone has the updated SOPs. So don't be afraid to keep your SOPs updated. Check out structure.com, get your free trial, no risk. Just check it out. What's it going to hurt you? See you in the next video. Peace. Click like too. Appreciate it. See ya.